my name is Roland. I am the Chief Operating Officer of Gaia-X, and I'm with this organization since 22. And I'm really enjoying the work we're doing for global trust systems and global trust frameworks, and working with all these nations and companies, and there's a lot of energy on it. In order to build trust, you need to have open standards and open source, because that's the heart of what we're doing. And the challenge we were in a few years ago was really the trust framework we built on a theoretical level had to be moved into some automation. So we could either go with audits, which is not really what we wanted, or we could put trust in an automated process. And there was no question that we're going to use open standards and open source for that. And that is now deployed in the digital clearinghouses that are not operated by us, they're operated by our members and partners. And that is what I call the democratization of trust. I think it is a very important objective to push open source in all regions and also in Europe. Because open source is the only way you can get this trust framework. The moment you need to rely on any existing provider or existing platform, you already lost some part of your sovereignty, and sovereignty is the driver. Oh, that's a very good one. European policymakers should invest more in open source and should invest in the project they're funding in the first place. Because when you invest in projects that are adopting technologies like fiber, open source, Gaia-X, then you need to follow through. Then you need to make sure that those projects actually are delivered on those standards, because it's not a direct funding, but it's an indirect funding. And also when you look into projects, I think funding is one part, but making sure in tenders that you ask for the technology you funded 2 years ago is actually the right way for the policymakers to go. So the engagement with the industry is something that I think is really important, but I think you need to find a way to work with associations that are representing smaller companies, because the large companies do have the right people, the right architects, the right CTOs, CIOs to understand what they want to do and which direction to go. When it comes down to medium and smaller enterprises, there lies the challenge. And they don't know what they get if they can support open source. I think if you can get your work and your education in that part of the industry, which is huge, by the way, in Europe, I think that would be a great step. I enjoyed very much being here because there is two things. There is a lot of knowledge on one hand side, and I could also see there is a lot of not knowing on the other side. And that's what I said in this side event today. Yesterday we had some very senior person from the UN saying, we are working on digital public infrastructure. We are trying to come up with standards, and we do this and that. And we looked at each other, FIWARE, BDVA, and Gaia, and said, nobody talked to us. And I think we're leading that space at the moment. So I think that was very interesting to see that when you live in your bubble, in Europe in this case, and expanding in some directions, it's not enough.